Okay, at this first lab station, we have a situation in which your lab partner dropped a graduated cylinder and it broke. So what you should do in this situation is first go and get the teacher. Don't try to pick up the glass yourself, and I'll come and sweep it into a dustpan, and I'll take it to the broken glass disposal, which is at the back of the room. It's right next to the fire blanket. The reason we put it in the broken glass disposal is so that it doesn't get into the trash can and tear the bag, and then whoever's taking out the trash might possibly cut themselves on it. So it's very important that broken glass always go into the broken glass disposal, but that students don't try to put it there themselves. It should always be a teacher who sweeps up the broken glass. In the second situation, you are performing a dissection and accidentally cut your glove with the forceps. Forceps are like tweezers. They look like this. And when you're dissecting, you're always going to use gloves because there are chemicals that you don't want to get on your hands that are in the animals for preserving them. So if you cut your glove with forceps, it's important that you get another glove and that you let me know so that I know you're getting another glove. Other safety concerns when you're dissecting, you need to always wear an apron, goggles, and gloves. The goggles and the apron will protect you also from the chemicals that are involved in dissection. In the third situation, you just finished a lab and you're ready to clean up. When you're cleaning up a lab, it's important that you put chemicals where they belong. If you're dealing with chemicals that are either flammable, corrosive, reactive, or toxic, they can't go down the drain. They can't be poured into the sink, even if they're liquid. An example of a chemical that is corrosive and reactive is ethanol. Ethanol is also flammable. If you don't know what ethanol is, you can always look at the material safety data sheet that tells you all about ethanol. This will tell you if it's flammable or toxic or poisonous. So if you ever don't know something about a chemical, you can look on the material safety data sheet. We sometimes call that an MSDS sheet. Now, at the beginning of the lab, I will give you instructions about how to dispose of chemicals. So just listen to those directions and follow them when you get ready to clean up. When you're cleaning glassware like this beaker, it's important that you use distilled water in a spray bottle like this. You're going to rinse it with distilled water because that will keep the glassware from spotting. Distilled water is pure, and tap water out of the sink will leave minerals deposited on the glassware that could react with chemicals when we use them the next time. In the fourth situation, you also just finished a lab and are ready to clean up. The important thing to remember here is that when you're carrying a microscope, you should use two hands, one hand on the neck and one hand on the base. Because they're easy to drop, they're very heavy, so make sure you walk with two hands. You carry them with two hands when you're walking with the microscope. Also, when you're done using a microscope, you should clean it with lens wipes so that the lens is clean for the next group. In this situation, you brought your drink from lunch into class and set it on a table while you did the lab. In this situation, our drink is a water bottle. Now, the rule you need to follow in this situation is to not bring food or drink into the lab. This is important because your drinks or your food could be contaminated with whatever it is you're working with. At this table, you happen to be working with Petri dishes. When we use Petri dishes, we'll be working with bacteria. When you're working with bacteria, you also use an inoculating loop like this to be able to handle the bacteria on the Petri dish. You're also going to wear gloves. All of these things are to protect you from being infected by the bacteria. So if you bring food or drink, it's very easy for it to be infected by the bacteria, and that'll make you very sick. So it's important not to bring food or drink into a lab. For this situation, you are diluting acid with water. When you need to mix acid and water, it's very important that you do not pour the water into the acid. You should always pour the acid into the water. You can remember this by the saying, add acid. Both of them start with an A. The reason you need to add the acid to the water is because when you add water to acid, it'll splatter and splash up into your face. And acid is very harmful if it touches your skin, it can burn you. So you should always add the acid to the water so that it doesn't splatter. It's also important when you're working with acid that you wear gloves, an apron, and goggles. These will protect your face and your hands and your clothes from the acid. If you get acid on your skin, go directly to a sink and wash it with a lot of water. Don't use soap when you're washing the acid off of your hand because the soap may react with the acid. Just use a lot of water and send one of your lab partners to come and get the teacher. In this situation, a book was sitting too close to the Bunsen burner and it caught on fire. In this situation, it's important to remember that you should keep your lab station neat and clean, and things that don't need to be at your lab station should be left at your desk. This way you won't have anything too close to the fire, and you'll be able to to work with the fire safely. Now, looking at the gas taps, when you're dealing with a Bunsen burner, you're going to need to turn the gas on. When you need to turn the gas on, you'll turn the handle of the gas tap to where it is parallel with the spigot. Because it's parallel, it's now on, and you can light the Bunsen burner. If you need to turn it off, you should turn it so that it's perpendicular to the spigot. That means that it is off. This is the position that all of the gas taps should be in whenever we're not using them in class. When you're dealing with things that are hot, it's important to remember that hot glass looks the same as cold glass. So even though the speaker doesn't look warm, it might very well be warm because of the fire from the Bunsen burner. So when you're handling things that might be hot, you should use heat-resistant gloves or tongs to handle the hot glassware.